Welcome to our today's video about the ARVOCAP Fixed Income Accumulation Fund. Before we exhaustively look at the features and the asset allocation for this fund, we need to have a recap. In our previous video on the ARVOCAP GAO Fixed Income Fund, we classified or we had introduced that ARVOCAP have taken the space on fixed income securities investment as a whole, giving the investor a whole experience about investing in government securities and selective quality corporate papers. In that introduction, we highlighted that ARVOCAP has 6 separate fixed income funds targeting specific purpose to the investor. The first 4 align with the ARVOCAP Fixed Income Distribution Fund, where that fund has 4 classes, each class being treated as a fund on its own. So we'll have ARVOCAP Fixed Income Distribution Fund, Class A, distributing monthly, Class B, distributing quarterly, Class C, distributing half-yearly, and annual distribution in Class D. Looking at this schedule, we'll have other 2 funds under the fixed income investment space and ARVOCAP Asset Managers Limited. We shall have what we are looking at today, that is the ARVOCAP Fixed Income Accumulation Fund, which does not have classes, but is important we look at the 2 distinctive features for these first 5 fixed income funds. The first 4 under GAO being distribution funds, which as an investor, you need to align your goals or uses for that income you're getting from that fund and its nature of distribution. Whether you need money or incomes distributed on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, semi-annually, or annually. Then if you're looking for a fund for long-term investments, you want to accumulate to compound the returns, the incomes that are coming in from the investments in that fund, then you are suited in the ARVOCAP ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund. Then the 6th fund that we shall be looking in our next video is the ARVOCAP Euro Fix Special Fund, which now looks at investment in fixed income securities which are dollar based. Under the regulations by Capital Markets Authority, when a fund manager is assigning a name to a specific fund, that name is structured to be descriptive enough for the investor to have an outlook of what that fund is all about. And going by this schedule, looking at the naming of the ARVOCAP ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund, the first part, ARVOCAP, that is the name of the owner of the investment vehicle as a product. That is the fixed income fund called ALMASI. So the second part, ALMASI, is a brand name, is a name that the fund manager has assigned for this particular fund. Then fixed income, that is the type of securities that this fund will be targeting to allocate the asset under management or distribute the investor funds across such type of assets. Assets or instruments that are going to be paying the fund fixed income or fixed returns. Then the part of accumulation. This is what it describes the nature of the fund as per the object by the fund manager. The purpose of this vehicle or product created by ARVOCAP Asset Managers is tailored for accumulation purpose, which means it is suitable for investors who are looking to accumulate or build capital over a long period of time, considerably about 5 years or more, targeting a specific goal. Could be your future home or any other future goal that could be looking forward to investing to achieve. Meaning that the returns that you're getting from this vehicle, you are not withdrawing them And the way that the nature of the fund is that the returns that you are getting through these funds are allocated to you as additional units that you will be holding in that fund. Then the last part, fund being a pool, being a mutual collection vehicle where many investors or different investors with different amounts of capital put into that basket a fund to leverage their small amount on a larger capital that is going to be invested on their behalf by the fund manager. And that's the descriptive nature of the name ARVOCAP, ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund. We shall now be looking at the fund features and the asset allocation of this particular fund after 3 seconds short break, so don't go away. In the meantime, as always, give a like to the video, engage us in the comment section, and don't forget to share the video to another person if it has value. See you after 3 seconds short break. Welcome back to ARVOCAP's ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund, and these are the fund details. The fund name is ARVOCAP ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund. We have highlighted with a lot of significance the importance of that descriptive name of that product, suggesting the importance of the fund being targeting accumulation of investment by the investors, targeting long-term investments, and the purpose, the objective of the fund manager of generating consistent growth to the capital of the investors through unlimited investments in government securities and selected quality fixed income corporate instruments, that is the commercial papers and corporate bonds. The type of a fund, this is a net asset value fund to give the investor a whole experience in fixed income investment, especially the government bond investing. There is a huge market in bond trading in the secondary market, a market that is trading over 10 billion worth of bonds on a daily basis. The one of the incomes that is targeted by these type of a fund, being income from trading, is the capital gains released by using or by leveraging on a fund as opposed to investing as on single bonds in the primary market. One of the serious challenge that direct investors will face is a retail investor. Once you have purchased a bond of less than 5 million, such an instrument, for purposes of trading in the bond market, in the secondary market, it will be considered as an old trade. And in most cases, that's why we insist as a channel, if you are investing as a DY in the primary market, looking for those bonds that are giving you averagely higher returns than the conventional money market instruments, then one of the challenges that you obviously face is a challenge on trading on that bond, which would interpret as a problem in releasing the capital gains that you have earned by holding a high value, high coupon bond in the market. Because capital gains are only released once you trade or sell that instrument. And that problem by retail investors in the secondary market of selling their instruments, that is now solved through these kind of vehicles. ARVOCAP ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund targets trading or active trading of bonds for purposes of releasing capital gains and also valuation of those instruments, which are gains on top of the coupons that are generated from the instruments that are transferred to the investors. And that's why these type of a vehicle will always give you a return that is way beyond what you are getting from the ordinary fixed income funds like the ARVOCAP GAO fixed income distribution fund and the other traditional fixed income fund investment vehicles. The fund inception or these products was released in the market for investment in June 3rd, 2024, and that means that the fund is almost completing its first year in operation. The base currency is Kenya shillings, this being a fund that is purely domiciled in Kenya, investing in local instruments. It only invests in Kenya shillings, and the distributions are also, or the base currency is also Kenya shillings. The custodian is NCBA Bank PLC, trustees is NCBA trustees. I think the issue of using a custodian and a trustee from the same parent company, that one we dealt with in our previous video where we're looking at the ARVOCAP GAO fixed income distribution funds, where we highlighted that it is allowed under the capital market regulations. The auditors for this fund is Kingori, Kamau and Company CPK or auditors. The initial investment, the minimum amount or the minimum entry to this fund is 100,000 shillings. Remember, the minimum amount that you can invest in the primary bond market, purchasing your bonds from the central bank, which now becomes the primary market, is 50,000 Kenya shillings. This fund requires you to invest a minimum amount of 100,000, and that is also the minimum amount of top-up for your investments in this fund. The total assets under management or the size of this fund is in the region of 1.695 billion Kenya shillings, a fund that is less than a year old. The locking period, once you do your first investment, once you put in or deposit your first 100,000 into this fund, you will not be able to access that money for the first 6 months of investment. The locking period of 6 months is a one-off locking period or locking feature, meaning that after the first 6 months, you will be able to access the entire amounts that will be sitting in your account, both the capital that you invested and any income or interest that has been accrued and credited to your account. Note that during this locking period, you will still be allowed or it's open to deposit additional investments. The feature only applies to withdrawal. And the additional investments that you are doing during the locking period, separate deposits do not attract separate locking periods. The locking period applies to the account and only for the first 6 months. Subsequent top-ups are not locked in that account. But any withdrawal, the first withdrawal has to be after the first 6 months, including the top-ups that you are doing in the first 6 months. Management fee for this account is 1%, which is prorated over 365 days. There are no exit charges, but in joining the fund, deposits to the fund will attract a maximum of 0.5% entry fees. A performance fee is applied on any return that is above the hurdle rate. This fund has a target or a hurdle rate where the hurdle rate is the average yield of a 5-year government bond plus 200 basis points. 100 basis points are equivalent to a 1%. So the hurdle rate for this fund in simpler language is the average yield of a 5-year government securities plus 2%. The 200 basis points is equivalent to a 2%. So whenever this fund has achieved a 2% above the average yield of a 5-year government bond, the amount that is above that hurdle rate shall attract a 20% performance fee to the fund manager. The regulator for this fund, or the fund, is regulated under Capital Markets Authority, having been issued a license number 190. The fund is of a low to medium risk, having been categorized a level 3 fund. It is important to attach a distinction between the GAO fixed income distribution funds and the ALMASI fixed income accumulation fund. Apart from those two terms that are distinguishing the two funds, one being targeting distribution of income and the other one accumulation for long-term investment, these two funds, the significant distinction between the funds in terms of their objective and structure is that the ALMASI fund is strategically placed for not only purchasing of fixed income securities, but also trading those instruments in the secondary market. The trading aspect is what gives this fund a clear distinction from what it is to a ANGAO fixed income distribution fund. The trading yields or releases capital gains, and the fund is valued on a monthly basis, where such a value is what is attached as the price, the value per unit. And that's why the time that you are joining the fund, you'll be joining at different values of the securities from 1 month to another. That value is also distributed as a gain to the current investors in the fund, yielding the high average returns or alpha returns compared to the normal or traditional fixed income fund. This fund by now has given the investors whose money has been invested for the last 1 year an average of about 27% as their return. Then lastly but not the least, we are looking at the fund asset allocation. Being a fixed income fund, ARVOCAP ALMASI Fixed Income Accumulation Fund does allocate the assets under management purely to assets or fixed income securities or instrument paying a fixed return. And it has a bias to government bonds and treasury bills. And as per this schedule of distribution, that bias is reflected by the government bonds or government securities having been allocated a whopping 83.92%, while term deposits, these are deposits placed with the banks, have taken an 11.36%, while cash and cash equivalents are getting a paltry 4.72%, which is giving us a total asset distribution or allocation of 100%. If you're looking for a good returning product or fund that is giving you the entire experience, investor experience from investing in fixed income securities, this is a very good vehicle to use, because you are not only getting a distribution of the fixed coupons that are payable out of government investments or bond investments, but also you are releasing your capital gains and sharing them as funds out of the leverage in the fund, and you are also sharing your valuation or the increased value of the instruments in the secondary market. And those three, on top of a low entry of 100,000 and similar low top-ups of 100,000, that gives you a wholesome investor experience in fixed income securities. Thank you for watching, and see you in our next video.